Welcome back, everybody, to week 14. It is the week of July 8th, and I certainly hope that everyone had a great 4th of July celebration and independence of our country. We had an officer fatality in Cleveland, Officer Ritter. And I'm hesitant to bring it up because I don't want to seem like I'm bringing up. I don't want to be on a soapbox on the back of Officer Ritter's murder. However, this continually just keeps happening. And it's happening for several reasons, folks. Channel 19, one of the reasons that it continues to happen, any type of issues that are coming out with officer fatalities, officer issues, is because of the Northeast Ohio's fourth estate, lack of media transparency. Again, if you haven't seen my episode on how the media portrays law enforcement in Northeast Ohio, make sure you look for it. I'll try to link it. The main problem coming on the eve of the trial for the East Cleveland officers that were indicted for use of force situations. You have weak politicians like Michael O'Malley who attempt to grandstand and use indictments for the hardworking officers of Northeast Ohio and in East Cleveland here specifically. He's grandstanding using his political stance of looking hard on law enforcement because he's worried about being Tim McGinty, getting voted out of office for not looking tough on law enforcement. But here you have officers that were performing their job. They were doing their job in East Cleveland, attempting to keep East Cleveland residents safe. And I'm proud to say we had violent crime in East Cleveland reduced dramatically. We were on the way of higher 80% reduction of violent crime in East Cleveland by the proactive stance that my officers were taking. Anyways, I'm going to put a Channel 19 segment up relative to officer fatalities going up in Ohio. And again, it's really ironic. It's ironic because Channel 19 is part of the problem that they're doing a story about officer fatality. And, you have all of the officer supporters, officers putting on their morning bands, all of the officer supporters coming in, but nobody wants to support the officers in between the times when there isn't an officer fatality. And that's where the support is needed the most. We hired, or you guys elected, not hired, you guys elected in Cuyahoga County a pure politician for your prosecutor, and now it's causing officers of Northeast Ohio the issues. Which amazed me because certain unions or certain members of the CPPA were endorsing O'Malley. I couldn't believe it.
As our community continues to mourn the death of fallen police officer Jacob Durbin, sadly, this is a pain that many families know all too well.
All too common. 19 investigates the number of police officers shot and killed in the line of duty so far this year, up dramatically compared to last year at this time.
Investigator Sarah Goldenberg joining us live in the newsroom with a look at, Sarah, some pretty sobering numbers.
That's right. Nationwide, 20 police officers have been shot and killed so far this year in the line of duty, up 25% from last year. That's according to the latest statistics from the Fraternal Order of Police, which go through April. And this number does not include Euclid police officer Jacob Durbin.
It's a dangerous job keeping the public safe. And last year, according to the Fraternal Order of Police, that job was a lot more dangerous. 378 law enforcement officers were shot in the line of duty in 2023, the highest number ever recorded by the FOP. Most of those attacks were not deadly. Still, 46 of those officers were killed by gunfire. The FOP says not as many died thanks to huge improvements in medical trauma science and anti-ballistic technology. In Ohio, 13 officers were shot in the line of duty in 2023. We looked at an end-of-the-year report from the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund to dig into those line-of-duty deaths by firearms more, and found in most cases, officers were attempting to make an arrest or handling domestic disputes. After that, officers were investigating suspicious circumstances or people when they were shot and killed. And 5 officers were ambushed, 5 were killed making traffic stops, and 5 were killed responding to robbery or burglary calls.
And the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund even broke down the number of line-of-duty deaths by demographics, finding most were male, on average 45 years old, with about 15 years of service and 2 children. But the FOP wants to remind people each one of these officers killed was so much more than a statistic. In the newsroom, Sarah Goldenberg, 19 News.
But if you like the channel, please give a thumbs up, put a like on it. It helps the algorithm of YouTube. It helps this channel out. It helps get the message out further. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And if you are a current subscriber, thank you for coming back. If you would like to help me with all of my hard work of the channel, consider sending me a cup of coffee. Or don't. That's fine also. We're going to get into the continuation of interviewing with Karen and Ed Pasela. I wanted to make certain that we left on the note because I don't know necessarily, I haven't heard a lot about it. Tony brought it up a couple of times relative to a lot of bad things coming out, falsehoods of Dawn and Dawn's death. And I just wanted to make certain because there were some mentions in the uniform police reports relative to Dawn and drug usage, and I couldn't find any evidence of it. It was not in her autopsy. There was no other mention relative to any type of drug usage that she perhaps may have had. And I just wanted to make certain that we ended with that, indicating that again, no evidence, complete falsehood. We talked to Ed and Karen about it. There was no drug usage. She was going through some issues with alcohol. She was actually in the process of attempting to get treatment. But as she had stayed with Ed and Karen the last 3 weeks, I believe, prior to her death, she had not consumed any alcohol, which I found very interesting because I did not know myself that she had actually fled in fear and was staying with her parents for 3 weeks prior to her death. And she actually had a job interview the following Monday, I believe they stated. But anyways, we're going to jump back into their interview. And I had some questions that they were able to answer. Again, I was pleasantly surprised. There were just subjective questions that I had in my mind as a previous homicide investigator. And they were able to answer those questions, which I thought was phenomenal. But anyways, we're going to jump back into their interview, folks.
The only thing was Marty Bauer did have a drug problem. He was dealing in drugs.
She kicked him out of the apartment when she found out.
Yeah, that he was stealing out of her apartment.
And I will come back to him because I'm very interested in him also, but I'll come back to him. But at some point, I also wanted to tighten up because Tony said at some point they actually also came to your guys' residence. Is that correct? Or
yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And was that about around that same time, or what happened with that?
That was probably, it was around that time.
Wasn't she next door over at?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was about 2 weeks before death, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so they actually came over to your residence prior to going to her residence, or
after? That was after she moved back with us that they came over.
Yeah.
And do you recall who it was and what they said?
It was Dan Casares, and I don't remember who else.
Whether it was Mark Bennett or
Carvin Clark. Yeah, one of the two. There was 2 of them there. They told me they came over and said they wanted to come in and look for computers and hard drives. I said, I seriously, I still remember verbatim. I looked at him with a smile and said, "You're more than welcome to come in when you have a warrant. Goodbye." That was my answer to him.
And obviously they never came back?
Never came back, no. I told them they're more than welcome to come in with a warrant. Goodbye. So back in.
So we had talked about the actual police report. Wasn't very much, but I wanted to hear it from you guys. What do you think the main issues with the original police investigation that were concerning to you? And then well, let me ask you that first, and I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay, what do you want to know? What about the police?
What are your concerns as far as the original police investigation?
Okay, well, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know half of what we know today when, I found Dawn. But as far as the police investigation goes, what we were told is like there's maybe 20 shitty photos taken of the scene area. I mean, they weren't, half of them weren't even clear. You're supposed to, they took less than half of what they should have taken. They didn't canvass the area. They didn't ask any of the neighbors if they heard anything or not. I mean, they just went there.
Well,
they did the minimum. In fact, they didn't even do the minimum. They didn't do anything from what we were told from Cuyahoga County.
I think what bothered me,
I would concur.
I think what really bothered me at the time is we had prior welfare checks because Dawn did have that drinking problem, and maybe 2 police would show up.
An hour and a half later. Yeah, it took them forever to get there.
At least a half an hour, if not up to an hour and a half.
At least an hour.
Yeah, and
but when I called that day, 6 cops, 6 policemen, 6 uniformed policemen came there in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I still say that they knew something with them.
Well, yeah, that's, and I mean, I sort of go into that. I mean, generally there might be additional officers that come in, but I mean, and that's just a basic premise. And I even if this occurred in East Cleveland on my watch, someone severely dropped the ball on this, because I mean, generally officers would come and they treat every death scene as a homicide until it's proven otherwise. And I just, the cursory, like you said, the photographs were embarrassing. I can only imagine what you guys think, because the photographs were embarrassing. Just like you said, half the photos that they did take were blurry. I couldn't even make out what they were doing. And there was like no, when you take photographs of any type of crime scene, whether it be an accident, a death scene, whatever, burglary, there are several different stages that you take the photos so that everybody can see what you're taking photos of. And it just seemed like they were just haphazardly I'm going to take a photo of this, and they would zoom in real close on something, it would be completely blurry, but they would give no, reference essentially of what they were actually photographing. So, yeah, I'll wholeheartedly agree with what Cuyahoga County had talked to you about. The investigation was very poorly executed. And again, I'm not just slamming Parma. I know several officers from Parma, but even if it had occurred on my watch in East Cleveland, hey, somebody dropped the ball on this and it needs to be made right. But so my follow-up question to you, and you sort of answered it, I think, in my mind at least. One of the documents, I guess when Parma released the documents to the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department, they basically were trying to imply, well, hey, they didn't have any questions about this for, years. So why all of a sudden are they inquiring about this? And I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'm going to, what's your answer to that? What did you not follow up with the investigation for years, or if so, why?
Well, all right. When Dawn passed away, we had our doubts about what happened, but it wasn't until 10 years later when Tony got out of federal prison, and he kept trying to contact us. He wrote us for years. We never answered back.
Well, we did, but I mean,
for years we didn't. It wasn't until the last two before he got out.
The thing is, Scott, that because Dawn had a problem with alcohol, we'd had prior welfare checks, and her health at that during that time had really deteriorated. Prior to when she came back home, she wasn't eating. She was drinking more. She wasn't eating.
But she turned herself around.
Yeah, those 3 weeks.
She knew she had to quit, and she quit for 3 weeks, and she had an appointment at the hospital for an outpatient intake. She was sober, and she wanted to stay sober.
And but the thing is, initially,
so we didn't put anything together.
Yeah.
At the time of her death, we didn't have no idea of. Well, we knew that she was supposed to go to the court, but I was in a state of shock, and everything that the little bit we knew never even registered in my mind. I mean, we weren't thinking about anything. We were in a state of shock. My daughter, I went and found my daughter dead. I'm not going to think about anything else, and we never really put all the pieces together until starting maybe about 2 years ago that we finally realized.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We didn't really know the police procedure. We did, it was, a lot of the stuff. I wasn't there. And why the police, four cops actually held Ed back, wouldn't let him into the apartment. He was, why didn't anybody talk to him? I think you said you were there for about an hour and a half outside her door. That always bothered me. Why did nobody ask anything about, do you know what, anything going on in your daughter's life? Nothing. And that's something that bothered me. And we had bits and pieces. And then the way Marty acted at Dawn's funeral, but because he was a drug dealer, we thought he wanted to get back into her apartment, and that there were drugs. We thought maybe the teddy bear he said he wanted, which was never there. None. No, but we thought it was to get back into the apartment to search for to get his drugs. We had we had such preconceived ideas between Dawn's drinking and Marty's drug issues. I think that clouded our minds as far as this other evidence as things came out, and then everything seemed to fit into this idea of drugs and alcohol. Even the suspicious things, because we never saw a police report or anything until we met Tony and started, we heard things from Tony and things just started clicking. And I don't know.
And that's pretty much what I had determined from your guys' answer. Because I mean, that was one of the questions I had in my mind. Okay, they're alleging that you guys didn't care about this for 10 years, and why all of a sudden? But it makes perfect logical sense. I mean, you guys don't have all of the information until you speak with Tony, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's a lot of inconsistencies here now, and I think it's a very poor tactic of, and I can't remember if it was the chief or a captain. I think it was a captain, or at the time, who responded to the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department's report that basically was indicating, well, they had no issue with this for 10 years. Why all of a sudden are they bringing this up? And I just, again, it's a deflection for them, because it would take no effort for them whatsoever to reopen the investigation. But I don't want to go. I don't want to jump real far ahead with that, because I'm hoping that's what happens. Not necessarily with them, but maybe the medical examiner redetermines, which I think is the way that you guys are going. But anyways, I wanted to get back and talk about the cell phones that were in her apartment.
3 of them.
They were documented. They were photographed. I shouldn't say documented. They were photographed. So the investigators there were cognizant that they were there. But do you have any idea what happened to them?
Her computer is missing, and her 3 cell phones are missing. We have no idea.
So we never
and the clothes on her back we never got.
Yep, those we got.
No, the broken necklace with the blood.
Right.
That we never got.
We never got her phones back. As far as her computer, we didn't notice her computer was missing until about 2 weeks after her death. Until
we cleaned out her apartment.
Right.
So when you say her computer, is her personal computer?
Pardon me? Her personal computer,
Okay, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
That personal computer also had her hard drives and that from work in there. So I'm not sure how much information was on that computer, but she used that computer for work too, even though it was her personal computer.
So when you call them,
and the 3 cell phones are gone.
When you call them and do the welfare check, do you at some point? What happens? Do they call you back, or are you on scene, or how does that transpire?
Stand by the door. I called for a welfare check, and usually I just stood by the door, or by the rail, looking at the front entrance. She is on the 2nd floor, right at the beginning of the hall, 201, I think.
Yeah.
And like I said, usually be over an hour to wait. They were there in 4 minutes, 6 of them.
So you were actually there though when all of them arrived. You're waiting outside.
Yeah, they held me back. They wouldn't let me in. I tried to get in the apartment, but 4 against 1. I was 50 something then, in my 60s. Couldn't take care of 4 policemen. They're stronger than me. They're younger than me. Put it that way.
Well, and that's the other thing that I saw that Morgan had referenced in his report. That Morgan is the sheriff, the deputy sheriff, and he had referenced, that's common, that and it is sort of common not to allow family in if you are treating it as an actual crime scene, but it doesn't appear that Parma was treating it as a crime scene. So I didn't understand what the harm of letting you in and seeing what was going on. But I mean, I guess it's neither here. And that's one of the things that,
okay, go ahead, Karen.
We were strongly discouraged.
Yeah,
I wanted to go that night to the county coroner's office, and we were strongly discouraged. We were told to wait until we saw her at the funeral parlor. We were told her face looked bad, which, you know, at the time, it didn't really occur to me why her face would look bad. But I was thinking more along the line, well, she had too much to drink, she fell against something, or I didn't know. We didn't know.
But she wasn't drinking then.
So and maybe I'm confused because Tony said something about at some point you guys had gone over and taken some alcohol and poured it down the sink or something.
And that was the night before.
But now that was the night before.
The night before we went to see her.
She had after not drinking for 3 weeks, the night before when we went there, she wasn't drunk, but
she had a couple drinks.
She had a couple of drinks. And I started looking around her apartment like I had done on previous times, and found a partial bottle. I dumped it down her kitchen sink, threw the bottle in the trash. And
so the bottle that's photographed in the trash is you actually had dumped it out.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's 2 cups of coffee there that weren't there the night before when we left.
The three of Dawn, Ed, and I had coffee that night, but I had taken the cups out and
rinsed them off.
Rinsed them out or washed them. I don't remember.
So it was your guys' cups of coffee, or are you saying that once you washed them, there were again 2 cups of coffee afterwards?
There was 2 cups of coffee after we left. When we left, there was none. We cleaned up.
I just wanted to
clarify,
make sure.
There was beer there that wasn't there. The 3 cell phones that were there wasn't there when we left.
Plus the medical records on her dining room table were not there when we left. Nor in the photos that it shows a black duffel bag or something. That was not there.
Or the white cloth.
Or the white cloth on the back of her couch.
See, all the stuff we didn't know right away.
That couch
was that bag her? Was the bag that you described, is that hers or?
The what? No,
the bag that you were just.
No.
No.
And that was missing. That was gone when we came to clean up.
It was not there the night before. But it's on that picture. But it was not, it was not, it was not there the night before because.
Yeah. See, there's a whole mess of red flags we didn't know about.
And actually, when we cleaned out her apartment, I sat where that bag would have been because I remember sitting on the floor crying while they were cleaning out the apartment. So I would have noticed that bag. And that's bothered me too. I saw the photos because I know that wasn't there.
So that was actually, I guess, my subsequent question also that I had in my mind. So at some point, you actually do go over and clean out her apartment, but the cell phones and the items that you just described, the bag and the cloth on the couch that are photographed, those are not there when you go to clean out the apartment.
No.
Or the computer.
That was Dawn's phone on the back of her couch, and that couch is right up by her door. We stood right by that couch and said goodbye. When we left, Dawn was holding her phone. She got a phone call. All I could tell was that it was a guy. It was a male voice. And we stood right there. I would have known, that was a dark leather.
How much of the conversation were you able to hear of the phone call that she received?
Not much, because
maybe a couple seconds. All she said was that my parents are leaving now.
Yeah,
that's all she said over the phone. Heard a guy's voice on the other end, but that's.
We do know now that Marty was at her apartment that night.
Yeah, he even admitted it to somebody.
He admitted it to another investigator, I guess, back in, I don't know if it was 2016. We didn't know it at the time.
No, we didn't even know.
We just found, our investigator team found out about it. Marty Yant.
Do you know what time he was there, or what time he alleged he was there? Or?
No.
Oh,
it has to be after we left around what, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, somewhere between 8:30, 9 o'clock.
So it had to be after that.
All we can really say about that is that.
And then she supposedly she passed away about what time?
Well, I don't know, because
I know what they said.
When you left, was the heat up or the window open?
No. The window was open.
Well, I don't remember. I don't know. Do you remember the window being open? It was warm that night.
It was warm. She hated the heat. Even in the winter, she kept the window open, because on the second floor she'd get enough heat from the first that she actually didn't put on the heat in the winter. Okay, she never used that thermostat. She hated the heat, and it was turned to 85 degrees.
For her to put it on,
and there was
no way in hell would she put it that high. No.
Yeah.
She didn't like the heat.
And it's one of the questions I wanted to make sure that I touched back, because when I was going through my analyzation of what they had photographed, I didn't know if she was, what they call a freeze baby, where she gets real cold easy and jacks up the heat.
No.
But yeah, sounds like the opposite. She did not like to use the heat.
No, she hated it.
Her apartment was always warm.
Yeah.
Even in winter.
That's what I said. Even in winter time, she cracked it a little because of the heat from downstairs.
So
there's too much inconsistency.
So basically, at this point, if I'm understanding correctly, and I think it's the right way to go, you're attempting to get. Have you guys had direct conversations with the medical examiner's office, or has someone at this point, the investigator, have conversations with the medical examiner's office?
Waiting for our lawyer to get a hold of the coroner's office so we could go down there and talk. We have new information we can't disclose yet, but we're waiting to go down to talk to him.
We do have.
I just said
discuss it. All right.
Discuss it.
Talk about his name's Marty. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, is it possible that she was talking to Marty on the phone, or do you have no idea who she was talking to on the phone when she left? Because you said that Marty did admit to actually coming to her apartment. It would make sense that she's saying, "Hey, my parents are leaving." I mean, is it possible that it was Marty on the phone, or?
I believe it was, yes. Absolutely. The fact now, I'm sure of it now because he has admitted being there. I guess he said that when he left, Dawn was alive, but I don't believe that anymore. I think the fact we were before she got that phone call that night, we were in the process. We were leaving. We were saying goodbye and hugging, and she got that call. So we left right away. That call never bothered me at the time because she had a friend. He was a childhood friend that had called her earlier in the evening while we were there. He wanted to come over. And I don't know, take her out for ice cream, walk. And we thought Ed was going to call him and tell him to come over anyway. I mean, he was a friend of the family. But Dawn had told him not to come, so Ed never called him. He went ahead. We always thought that that was Ron that had called her that night. But then when we found out things from Tony and we started looking into things, I had called him and asked if he had stopped by that night or called her back that night, and he said no, he hadn't, and it always bothered him over the years that he never came. So we know it wasn't him. So yes, I do think
there was probably
that was Marty, and
has
now we know.
Marty ever had conversations with you guys?
Yeah, over the time that they were going together, yes.
No, after she passed away.
After she passed away, yeah. Marty
kept calling, wanting the toxicology report. We told him to go forget it.
For probably almost a year after her death.
At least 6 months.
Yeah.
I'd say 6 months.
He would call and.
I mean, during this time, did he give you guys any information as far as like him being at her apartment the night of, or?
No. In fact, I had asked him directly because we had found a can of, when we cleaned out her apartment, cleaned out her refrigerator. There was a can of Bud Light with lime, which he drank.
There's a 5-pack left.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, there was one can missing.
Yeah, there was a 6-pack in there with one can missing.
And so we were concerned about that because she didn't drink beer. She didn't like beer. She struggled with alcohol, but never beer. She drank vodka and maybe occasionally wine, but she didn't like the taste of beer.
Do you know, did she mix her vodka? I know this sounds like an odd question, but I mean, did she mix her vodka with anything, or as far as like other, like a Sprite or whatever? I mean, did she mix it with anything?
7-Up.
Yeah, and she would mix it with cranberry juice.
Because there's a, and I had brought this up to Tony, there in the photos, it looks like there's some energy drinks that are also there.
Those, she did not drink. She didn't like energy drinks. She did not drink those at all.
Yeah, so the beer and the energy drinks,
they were not hers.
And was definitely not there the night before.
And another thing about the beer, I guess Marty did admit to this other investigator that when he came, he did bring beer.
Now, has Parma ever had like any conversations with you? I mean, other than dodging essentially at this point? I mean, have they had any meaningful dialogue with you guys?
Nope.
No.
Not since that first meeting we had with them.
With our first meeting, we thought they were going to do something.
That's over a year ago, ain't it?
Yeah, right.
And did you actually have conversation with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department?
No, we just got the letter. Kim was the one that had.
Well, we had a conversation with Mackie. We had a couple conversations with him. Yeah.
Oh,
initially, yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually, yeah.
But I mean, nothing as far as them, saying, "Hey, we think that these things should happen at this point," or
we got the letter from them stating all the facts that what Parma didn't do. Yeah, we got the letter. But you seen that, right?
No. I did see the letter. I just didn't know if they had actually followed up conversation with you and said, "Hey, this is what we discovered, and this is what we think you should do," or what should happen at this point.
Talked to them with the follow up.
What they told us after that report is that
they did say one thing.
We would have to get the report from Parma. They weren't going to give it. They were not going to give it to us.
No, Mackie told us after they got done with the report, he said the best thing you could do is get it out of the state of Ohio. You'll never get it done here.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah.
Captain Mackie from the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department told us the best thing for us to do would be to get it out of state. He admitted there's too much corruption.
Get what you mean? Like as far as the investigation, I'm confused. What get what out of state?
Yeah, to get that investigation somehow out of the state. He said there's too much corruption.
Yeah, we never get it.
He told us we'd never get it done here in Ohio. That to get it done out of state. That's from Mackie. From the
I'm not. I'm shaking my head because I'm not in disagreement. I mean, the things that I'm finding out about the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office alone is unnerving. So, do you have any idea as far as BCI? I know I saw the letter. Parma did give it to me on the public records request that I had made. The BCI essentially said, "Hey, we're waiting on you guys." Essentially,
hand it over. Yeah.
But do you have any? So you have any idea why Parma won't? Because I had even emailed the chief recently saying, "Hey, do you have it? I'm doing this story on this. Do you have anything to add?"
You're breaking up real bad.
Am I? All right. I paused our upload here, or paused my upload. So what I was asking is, as far as BCI goes, I had emailed the Parma police chief asking him if he had any comment relative to this investigation, and I asked specifically what his reluctance was to turn this investigation over to BCI, and of course he had never responded to me. But do you guys have any idea why Parma won't simply just allow an outside investigator to investigate this?
Yeah, because Dan Caceres is the Assistant Attorney General. That's why they told us to get it out of state, because he has too much pull. And Bennett has law offices in Parma.
He used to have law offices in Parma.
They used to be good. Bennett used to be good friends with the safety director, who is also a lawyer. There's too much political connections. That's why Mackie said, "Get it out of state."
They're friends with Bob Plea, who is the present safety director in Parma. And
I mean, even O'Malley is the current prosecutor for the county. He was originally from Parma. He was the Parma safety director. So Parma is definitely a hotbed of issues. What? So I guess, and my final question, I'm going to leave it up to you. Is there anything else you'd like people to know about Dawn, or the circumstances surrounding her death, or?
Yeah, we just really need the public's help. I believe there's a lot of people out there that know something, and we're just asking that people come forth. If you know something, there is a $10,000 reward out for any information leading to the arrest of a suspect. And we're just asking that, if you know something, come forward. It's an anonymous tip. You don't have to leave your name. You know, I just don't want any other family to have to go through what we're going through. And there's just so many questions, and we need answers. We need to know what happened.
And that's what's frustrating to me is that I just can't believe that you guys are having to go through this. I can't believe that they just won't hand the investigate. I can understand that maybe their manpower is too low to investigate this, but there's no reason they can't hand this investigation off to somebody else. And I feel horrible for you guys. I feel
there's 2 law enforcement agencies that want to take it, and Parma won't release it. So why? Well, first of all, they know they screwed up. They didn't do anything when they should have. And now I think they're not releasing it because they're trying to cover up their ass for not doing what they were supposed to.
But it's also the Cuyahoga County coroner's office that's covering up too. I think, well, because initially they said that had they known that Dawn was going to testify the next day,
they would have done a thorough autopsy. Yeah, they even admitted they didn't do a full autopsy. I forgot about that.
They didn't.
They talked about if there was more evidence. Then we got more evidence. We found out about the 3 cell phones and
furnace
and everything else.
Computer.
Yeah, and they're still not opening it. They still have refused to change or cause the death, and that's what we really need. We also need a government official to come in and
give a damn.
Yeah, order an investigation.
And I think you guys are definitely going on the right path, because if the medical examiners at least changes the cause of death, it at least gives a foundation for somebody to be pressured at that point to investigate this. And so I was trying to look. Do you know who was running the medical examiner's office? I'm asking you. I can look it up myself at some point, but do you know who was in charge of the medical examiner's office when Dawn's death happened?
No. I know Dr. Philo is Dr. Galita's boss, but I don't know who was running the...
When Dawn, no.
Yeah.
I don't know how long Philo's been there.
I do know I called the medical examiner's office about a year and a half ago and asked what their procedure was. The family member wants to see the body, and I was told that they would not ever refuse a family member to come see, and we were refused. I wanted to see Dawn's body, and
oh, that's right. That's one thing about the autopsy that we forgot to tell you about. The reason why we weren't allowed to see her is they told us that her face was misaligned or something. Misshapen. And whoever looked at the photos, because we refused to, some detective looked at the photo and said that the only way her face could get like that was through
trauma to her neck.
Trauma to her face. Somebody physically had to hit it.
Well,
we didn't know that back then either.
No. And the fact that there was that white cloth on the back of her couch with her phone on top of it, I really think what happened was that it happened right after we left. Maybe somebody was even watching. Down the hall. I don't know. Because her apartment was right near the steps, and we just went down the steps and out to the parking lot. I think so.
With the window being, would somebody be able to get inside the apartment through that window, or is it low enough that somebody could have came through the window?
It's low enough to drop. To get in, you'd have to almost have a ladder to get in.
But you could drop hang from that.
But you could drop hang from it easily.
To get out.
to get out.
And that's a big thing because the door was locked.
But we don't know if Marty had a key. He used to live there, so he might have had a key that we don't know about. He could have just left after,
Yeah, so Tom, you brought up the name Thomas Gilson, correct?
Who?
Oh,
from
Thomas
the medical
Gilson.
examiner's office.
Oh, that's right. That's who the medical the director was. Yeah.
How do you know?
Because I remember that name now.
I don't.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to see if he was in charge at the time of Dawn's death or not.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, is there? I certainly hope to keep coming back to this, and hopefully, I was able to get some information. Hopefully, I don't want to discuss it here, but hopefully Tony was able to relay that I had given the investigator some information that had come in through me. It wasn't anything earth shattering, but again, and that's what I hope anybody that's listening or watching, you may not think that it's very significant, but trust me, as a homicide investigator, the just little pieces of information that nobody seems to think that's important could be a break in the case. And so, as Karen was talking about, they have a reward, and the submission of tips. Where do you want that to go, Karen and Ed?
Oh,
it's
on Dawn's website, Justice for Dawn. On the Facebook page, Justice for Dawn, the telephone number for the tips is there.
Yeah, it can either go to Seeking Justice or Bob Frederick. The contact information is there.
Okay, I'll make sure that I put it up in post-production. I wanted to make sure that wherever you wanted the tips to go with it, that's where I was using.
Or somebody can contact also Kim Carell, our attorney. Her contact information is up there too. So there are 3 places that someone can submit tips. I think Tony might be up there too. But Bob Frederick, Seeking Justice, and Kim Carell.
Kim's pretty awesome. I know Kim very well, so I'm hoping she's able to be the driving force on getting some things moving for you guys. Kim's awesome. So
she is. We feel very fortunate.
I appreciate your guys' time. I'm trying to let's see. Trying to make sure that we're uploading here now at this point. So I'm gonna stop recording. If you guys can just wait.
Okay.
Folks, that is a wrap for episode 15. Ed and Karen did a fantastic job. If you have any follow-up questions for them, please leave them in the comments below or shoot me a message. This weekend, with any luck, I will be recording my segment with an OPOTA expert who will discuss the use of force. I am going to slide him some questions relative to the latest officer murder in Cleveland and now the supposed investigation that is being launched on the use of force of the officers who arrested the murder.